Welcome, I'm Jon Caldara, president of the Independence Institute and your devil's advocate. This show and next show, we're going to spend a little time with each of the Republican candidates for governor. All good men, all good friends. So let's kick it off with a man I'm sure you've never heard of, Mr. Tom Tancredo. Thank you for being here.
It's a pleasure. I enjoy the surroundings.
Yeah, you used to do this. You used to have a life.
I used to do it so much better than you, but you're still doing a pretty good job.
Used to be about the music. By the way, for those who don't know, you had my job before me.
I did, and even started this little
gig here, yeah.
At Channel 12.
So, thank you, and I'll kick back $20 to you someday.
Yeah, I've heard that now for
because that's about
8 or 10 years.
What it's worth. How are you enjoying the campaign? Talk to me.
Hey, somebody, Susie, Dominic,
Susie, they all look the same.
What's his last name? It's
Dezzutti.
Dezzutti, right. I should be able to say that's a nice Italian name. Dominic says to me coming in, asked me the same question. I said, look, have you ever asked a candidate?
Yeah, I'll take it back.
How is it going to have him say, oh man, the wheels are coming off this bus?
out of money, the press is killing me.
Oh my God, this is a mess. No, it's wonderful. Everything's wonderful.
Well,
it really is.
All right, everything's wonderful.
Yes, everything's wonderful.
Let's get into the specifics. You haven't gone to any of the Republican debates.
I haven't been busy each time. I don't know.
It was
had something to do. It
was hair dyed.
One time they gave me an address. I went there. It wasn't there. I don't know what's going on.
Has that been a good strategic move?
It was the best. It was very smart. Here's what's happened, I think, as a result of it. It has been the quietest, nicest primary I think I've seen in a long, long time. One reason is because I made such a stink out of the other kinds of primaries that turn into circular firing squads. I have been on the stage with these guys many times in the last couple of months, not in a debate format. We have, one of us will speak, take questions, maybe sit down. The other one speaks. It's not a one-on-one. You're not up there poking at each other. You're just talking to an audience and saying, here's what I'm all about. What questions do you have? So I've done that, more than willing to do it anytime. I will not do this, as I say, sit around and yell at each other. And especially it's going to be worse now as we get down to the as they say, the nut cutting, because it's as people look at the polls and they see themselves not really gaining any momentum, they start reaching for straws, getting excited, getting worried, and you'll see more of it, I think. But up to this point in time, it's been pretty nice.
I'd also throw out that because of Colorado's horrific campaign finance reforms, that guys like you, the candidate, doesn't really run their own election any longer. So you and Bob and Scott and Mike, they all might be running great, nice campaigns, respectful campaigns, but it's that independent expenditure, it's that PAC someplace, it's the 527 that's going to start throwing the mud because that's their guy. I want to make it clear that none of these candidates have the ability to see it, coordinate it with it, stop it.
That's correct.
And I think that's what's going to happen.
That certainly could, and it certainly will happen in the general election. There's no two ways about it. That's where all the money comes in.
Talk to me about money, though. Money is the key to these elections. Yes. How's it been going?
It's the best of times. It's the worst of times. I'm telling you, the most amazing thing in this race to date is the fact that we have now, as of last count, a couple of days ago, reached the 10,280 individual donor mark.
10,000.
10,000, John. That's going to be twice as many, maybe 3 times as many as all the rest have combined. Put them together, including Hickenlooper. A lot of times you don't have that many individual donors in a general election, let alone a primary where there are 3 other candidates. It is just amazing to me. Now, that's the best of times. Here's the worst of times. The average contribution is $67. God love them. And so we have to spend twice as much money, do twice as much work. It's wonderful to have 10,000 donors. Bob will have more money than I will. Hickenlooper will have more money than I will. The other 2 won't. But the fact is, they'll have it from a very few, they got their own money or they've got friends with a lot of money. I have neither.
I'm a friend, but
you're a friend. Like
but I got no money.
I have neither.
All right, tell me about how you're going to win. Not necessarily positions, because I mean I look at the four of you, and honestly, these are four good guys. You know, I can look at this primary and go, these are friends of mine, all of them. These are guys I've worked with on different projects. I trust them. I mean, these are competent people. How do you win? How do you win this primary? And then how does that translate into a win in the fall? Because it seems like you're going to have to run in two different directions.
Well, actually, it's interesting. Here's how I think we can win. This is the strategy we've been dealing with for a long time. This is why I'm still in the race, because I still believe this can happen. And I believe I'm the only candidate that can put this together. The Democrats win election after election after election by putting together coalitions, primarily women, minorities, and the young. I have the only opportunity of the other Republican candidates to at least kick the leg out of one of those legs out from that stool, and that's the youth vote. Now, I have a higher percentage of people who identify themselves as independents. I have a higher percentage of them saying they're going to vote for me than any other candidate in the race, including the governor. Now that's today. I mean, now we're all behind Hickenlooper right now. Every single one of us are behind him in the polls. But of the people running, I have a higher percentage of people saying they're independents and saying they'll vote for me. That's the key to any election in Colorado, because at the end of the day, you end up about a 45% Republican, base gets out there, about a 45% Democratic base, and you have to fight for those other 10%. And I'm telling you, if I can retain a majority of them against Hickenlooper, I can win. That's the way it can be done. Certainly not going to say it's going to be easy. It will be one hell of a race.
But isn't there the traditional problem? Nixon even talked about it. You have to run right in the primary. If you're a Democrat, you run left. And then you've got to run right back to the middle. So the type of things that you can say in order to get through the primary are going to be very different than what you're going to be saying and doing for the general.
It's interesting, because the thing I talk about, and the thing I think most people, not most people, are aware of perhaps, but what we will certainly make them aware of, is that I am the only Republican that supported Amendment 64. Let's start there. And I've supported liberty issues like that for a long, long time. This is not a new ground for me to plow. That will hurt me in a Republican primary. That hurts me in a primary. But what I try to tell my Republican colleagues and Republican voters is, look, try to get past that and think about what's going to happen in a general election. If we run, John, I cannot stress this enough. If we run a traditional candidate with a traditional campaign, we will have a traditional outcome. And that outcome is we lose. So it better be something different for anybody that takes the mantle. It better be a much different kind of campaign. Now, who do you think, who's the oddball in that? Who can run a more untraditional campaign?
Take a look at Cory Gardner's race. And when Cory jumped in, it lit a fire. Yeah. All of a sudden, this became a winnable seat for Republicans. And the Republicans running for that seat basically stepped aside. And that hasn't happened in this race.
Nobody's caught fire like that.
So tell me, what would it take, or have you thought about, and I'll ask this to your colleagues as well, what would it take for you to step out? Have you considered stepping out and throwing your support someplace else?
No. You and I have had a talk about this, John, a long time ago. And you know how I feel about this. I feel today as I did then. If somebody can do this job better than I can, if they can put this together in a way that I can't, if their numbers, if we see anything that tells us John Doe, Bob, Mike, Scott, one of them, is ahead of Hickenlooper, I'm behind by X number of points, believe me, I'd hand him the baton. I'm not kidding you. I would, because the task for us all is to make sure that we take this seat back. It is not simply to be governor for me. I've had a great life in politics. It's been wonderful. And it's not as if I need this to either pad my resume or for a job. Thank God we're okay. And, I do this because I believe I can bring that to the table, this issue of of an independent character, an independent race, a different kind of Republican, certainly a different kind of Republican. That's, you got to admit that. And I think that benefits me. Now, it hurts me in the primary. I will not win the primary by as much as I perhaps would have had I just stuck to the old, you know, boy, this is, I'm just down the road, you know me, Mr. GOP. Well, first of all, it's a lie. I would never say that because it's not true. I am not a, you know, I'm not the Howard Taft of the Republican Party, you know.
No one could ever accuse you of that. All right, let's assume for some reason you couldn't run for this primary. You get struck by lightning. Who would you throw your support behind? Who would you like to see win that primary? And again, I will ask your other three comrades about this too.
I would like to see Bob Beaupre, Scott McGinnis, or Mike Kopp win it.
Oh, what a politician's answer. And you were just telling me what an unpolitician you are.
Well, I'm telling you the truth. Yeah. And I swear to God, this is the truth. Any one of them. I've known them for years. I supported them in every race they've run. Luckily and interestingly, they supported me in every race I've run, including the last one when I ran for governor.
As a Constitution Party candidate.
As a Constitution Party candidate. So every one of them, they are my friends. This is not like the last time, John.
This is not like the last time. I agree.
I could look at any of these guys and go, no problem. No problem with any one of them.
Got less than a minute and a half or so. Tell me, what is the thing you would do as governor? The one thing that needs to be changed, and Tancredo is the guy who's going to do it.
Most people, I think, when they think of me, they think of immigration-related issues. The reality is, I have a passion that predates that by a long, long time. It started when I started teaching in Jefferson County in 1970. And I taught for 8 years. I taught civics. It is my passion. Education. I put vouchers on the ballot in 1992. I raised the money. I wrote the initiative. I worked my butt off to do it. And I'm telling you, it is the thing as a governor, I can't think of anything more important, except maybe to also form a 10th Amendment Governor's Caucus so that we can tell the federal government, look, buddy, you've pushed this too far. And there's a group of us that's going to say, enough is enough. You're not going to take any more land in Colorado. You're not going to tell the EPA that they can shut down any power plants they want by determining what kind of emissions it can be. Because it's actually against the law, John, for them to do some of these things. But nobody has stopped them. I will.
What are you going to do in education? 30 seconds. What are you going to do in education?
Choice is going to be a great, huge issue. I mean, that is the ultimate kind of reform. It is the true, it can bring about true renaissance.
People want to get involved. Where do they go?
GovernorTancredo.org. And we're not just being audacious. It's the only thing we could get.
Well, future former Congressman, future possible Governor, thank you, Tom. Appreciate it. Stay tuned. Bob Beaupre next.
My